Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of SEDLS. Um, I really appreciate seeing you all here bright and early this morning. I hope you had a good time yesterday. I thought all the presenters did such a wonderful job, and I'm looking forward to seeing some more really great sessions today. I did want to remind everyone that the Birds of a Feather Padlet is still open, and we've got some really good options in there, but still looking for other suggestions for topics for our talk social session on tomorrow afternoon. And that's really all the announcements I have for you today. If any of you have questions, just reach out to organizers and have a great day too. I'm going to turn it over to Laura, who's going to be moderating this session.
Thanks, Marla. So I'm Laura Bean, and like Marla said, I'm going to be moderating these next few short talks until the hour's up. Presenters, just keep in mind that between each session, I will do a really brief introduction and then give you the floor. And also keep an eye on the chat because I'm going to post a 1-minute warning in there if we get up to it, just to stay on track with time. And since it is 3 minutes over, we'll go ahead and get things kicked off for the day with our first presentation, From Data to Impact, Empowering Climate Justice Research with GIS at MIT Libraries. So take it away, Erin.
Awesome. Can I get a thumbs up that everyone can see my screen? Awesome. Great. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Erin Shives, and I am the GIS and Statistics Librarian at MIT Libraries. Today, I'm very excited to talk to you about my presentation, From Data to Impact, Empowering Climate Justice Research with GIS. For a little bit of background on myself, I've been at MIT Libraries since August of 2024 in the GIS and Data Lab. Prior to this position, I received my bachelor's in sustainability from San Diego State University, and then I went on to get my master's in environmental science from Yale, where I focused specifically on research intersecting climate justice, GIS, and statistics. So since this is a short talk, I'll get right into it. Just to go over what we'll be talking about today. First of all, what is GIS? The fields of GIS and climate justice, the GIS and Data Lab at MIT and our services there, as well as the successful partnerships that we've been able to create. And then lastly, how we empower independent and collaborative research within our academic community. So, what is GIS? For those who are unfamiliar, GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems. It's a spatial system that creates, manages, analyzes, and maps several types of data. GIS uses real-world data, so we can take this data and layer it and analyze it to represent actual locations, features, and conditions that exist on the Earth. This type of data includes things like roads, land use, weather patterns, or population. It essentially is a spatial medium that allows for users to interact with complex geographic realities in a visual and data-driven way. I can't get into all of the technicalities of GIS with this short talk, but I do want to highlight some of the broader range capabilities. Within environmental science, it can be used to model climate change impacts, track wildlife migration, or assess natural resource distribution. In the field of public health science, it can be used to map disease outbreaks, which then to identify risk factors and inform interventions. GIS is also great in terms of design. We can use it to create full 3D models of cities, where you can use attributes like buildings, streets, and trees to make real-world visualizations. This type of use of GIS supports data-driven urban growth and city planning decisions. Also, GIS provides critical insights into types of vulnerability. We can gather socioeconomic statuses, health outcomes, and environmental hazards to then identify at-risk populations and regions. This type of capability is awesome because it enhances decision-making and supports the development for sustainable, equitable, and resilient solutions. I want to bring your attention to the map on the right under the awareness. This map was created by Bill Rankin, where he assessed the city of Chicago from the census block level to show the distribution of racial/ethnic self-identification for the year 2000. This type of data comes in the format of an Excel spreadsheet. However, through GIS technologies, we can take this data that is very meaningful and useful, not as much in the form of an Excel spreadsheet, and spatialize it so that we can look at specific patterns that's occurring within that data. So just in an Excel spreadsheet, you would see rows and columns that have variables like racial and ethnic self-identification, but all you see are hundreds of thousands of rows that have labeled white, Black, Asian, Hispanic, or other. Without the spatialization of that data, it's not as useful. But here we can see that it reveals an entirely different story across the space of Chicago. These type of maps are incredibly useful, specifically within the context of climate justice. So climate justice is important because it acknowledges the impacts of climate change are not distributed equally. And this field seeks to address the systematic inequalities that make certain communities more vulnerable. Climate justice is a term, and more than that, a movement that acknowledges climate change can have disproportionately harmful social, economic, and public health impacts on disinvested populations. With the context of GIS and climate justice, it is no surprise that this field has especially taken off in the last 20 years, and even further than that, but it's really grown in the last 20 years. So there's a lot of different ways that you can utilize GIS to examine climate justice issues. Just to name a few, we can examine land use and resource access, identify vulnerable populations, model climate risks and impacts, analyze the spatial distribution of environmental hazards, assess infrastructure and utility distribution, and many, many more. And we're seeing this pop up a lot within the GIS world. So with this in mind, and in my position, I wanted to bring more of a light and resources to those at MIT within our community. As I mentioned, I work in the GIS and Data Lab at MIT alongside my colleague Paxton LaJoy. Both of us have expertise in geography and GIS, remote sensing, environmental science, and then also adjacent fields. We both have completed many research projects from start to finish, so a big emphasis within our teaching is to support reproducible research methods and best practices. We also have a breadth of knowledge of our library resources, so when students come to us about GIS and they're seeking elsewhere, we can point them in the right direction. Within our GIS and Data Lab, we have 16 high-performance computers. Here we teach our workshops, we connect with different faculty and staff across a bunch of different departments on campus, and we're also able to host our one-on-one consultations. Through these one-on-one consultations, we mainly help students with their classwork, thesis research, paid research, and especially with any external partnerships while they're completing their research here, we help them manage data. We also manage accessing GIS-related license and software, which help for our users to incorporate it into their research. This is a conglomerate of a lot of different relationships that we've been able to form over the past years with the GIS and Data Lab. These relationships were able to be formed by connecting with our field-specific liaisons. We've been able to reach out directly to faculty and staff when we know that they'll be teaching GIS content and related materials. So we'll reach out, ask if they need any support for their class, and then offer the schedule of our workshops for that semester. Speaking of the workshops, we also market broadly across the libraries. So we're trying to be able to get that knowledge to anyone across MIT. We get a lot of requests from groups at MIT, and they usually are asking for specific training. So the great part about this is if they're in the Earth, Atmospheric, and Planetary Sciences, we can take our general Introduction to GIS workshop and edit it just a bit so that it's more meaningful to those students in their field of study. There's a lot listed here, and I'm going to go through and highlight some of these groups in the following slides about how we were able to work with them specifically for climate justice research. The first I wanted to mention was from the Office of Sustainability. They reached out to us last spring to basically teach an overview of what environmental resources exist in the libraries and in the GIS and Data Lab. They introduced us to that they were going to have 14 summer interns and they would be working across 7 projects. These projects ranged greatly. Some would use GIS and some wouldn't, but they were focused in heat inequity through tree intervention, to decarbonization, to food accessibility, and more. We presented this workshop initially with the environmental liaison at MIT Libraries and myself, and we went over just broadly what resources we offer, how to do correct citations, and GIS, of course. Some of the students would be using GIS, but not all of them. However, after this one introductory workshop, we had a lot of requests to then teach an introduction to GIS to these students, which was fantastic, and we were able to curate it toward them and present within 1 week. It was just the summertime, so it's not as busy in the libraries, but we were very excited that following these 2 workshops, we received 11 more individual consultations, and we were able to watch some of these students start their projects all the way to the finish and get it to their end users. Another example of successful mentorship is the increase that we've had with GIS and climate justice related workshops. Specifically, the GIS for Climate Justice workshop, I piloted this back in January because I saw a general need for it within the MIT community, and this was just done through my one-on-one consultations and people showing that they wanted to work with data. They had the concepts mostly down about GIS and climate justice, but they didn't know where to get started or how to actually work with the tools. In creating this for the MIT community, we advertised it, and then actually the PKG cohort reached out to us directly saying that it was great that their interns who actually work in the field in social change and environmental science also wanted a workshop like this. Another one that we hosted was Data and Environmental Justice, exploring environmental advocacy with EJ Screen. For those of you who don't know, EJ Screen is now a deprecated data set that hosts vulnerability data across the United States. We again just hosted this workshop because it seemed like it was very popular across the MIT community, and we wanted to give formal education on how to use this. Both of these workshops were completely filled and even had overflow in the lab, and it was great to see. Some of the learning outcomes that we wanted to ensure from this workshop included understanding the history and importance of climate justice, how to read and create their own metadata, how to be responsible with the power that comes with creating maps, and especially the message that it's going to give to the audience. And then lastly, how to actually analyze multiple data sets to assess climate justice issues. Multiple data set analyzation in GIS becomes pretty tricky, and you need to have a quick ramp up with GIS to get there. And so with this need, we saw that creating this GIS for Climate Justice workshop would help them get there. So for example, in this workshop, we provided students with both census data that had population attributes, as well as temperature data for the city of Boston. And we teach them through the entire workshop of how you can clean this data, manipulate it, and then display your deliverable map. And the deliverable map that they created showed areas across Boston that it sees high heat along with population vulnerability. Overall, we want our patrons to be best informed with the tools and resources that are available to them. We find it especially important that they can search, collect, and organize data for reproducible research. We also want to inform them of ongoing challenges with data and resources like the Data Rescue Project, so that if they're looking for any data that they know previously existed, of where to go find it, especially with the example of our EJ Screen tool that has since been deprecated. They can go to the Data Rescue Project and search there. Also, since we're the GIS and Data Lab, we want to make sure that our patrons have a firm understanding of GIS tools and capabilities. This includes informing them about the tools through our workshops, all of the available documentation online, which is especially important because GIS comes in a proprietary format and also an open source format. For a lot of our workshops, we allow students to pick which one they'd like to choose, and we have instructions in both, and we tell them about the pros and cons of each. GIS, as I mentioned, has a super steep learning curve for beginner and intermediate users. And so another thing we want them to know about is how to troubleshoot specifically GIS questions or errors. If any of you have started a programming language or used GIS, many of the errors are not intuitive, and seeking the answer to these errors is even more tricky. So we always make sure within our workshops or one-on-one consultations that they're aware of how to solve these independently. And if they cannot solve these independently, that is okay. We tell them where they can find us to reach out to help. On our GIS homepage, we have the Contact Us section where they can fill out a GIS help request form and ask us for anything they may need. We also host all of our previous workshops and upcoming workshops on our website so that if they can't make a workshop, they can go through and teach themselves with our content. And lastly, since we're in the libraries and a lot of students come to us for more than just GIS, we make sure that they are always helped and pointed in the right direction, whether it's to DMS or to their respective liaison. So with all this in mind and all of the collaborations we've had over the past year, it's made it very clear that there's a strong and growing interest in GIS technology. Students, faculty, and staff are not only curious about how it works, but they're especially excited to support their research and projects using this technology, especially within the context of climate justice. We're excited to continue our support for the upcoming year by offering our services, tools, and guidance that overall will make GIS more accessible and impactful for everyone in our academic community. And if you are interested in further discussing this topic, I would be happy to talk to you, or if there's any questions you may have, I am happy to take them. Thank you.
Hey, Erin, gorgeous presentation. I love all the maps. I might have missed this at the beginning, but can you talk a little bit about the staffing of the GIS lab?
Sure. As of right now, it is just myself and my colleague Paxton LaJoy, and she is the head of GIS and statistics at MIT, and then I am the GIS and statistics librarian. And both Paxton and I, we manage the entire lab, the computers, and we are the main points of contact for anyone across campus.
So do you guys get a lot of like beginner level questions, and then how do you field those?
Yeah, the beginner level questions are they're probably the most common. And when you say field those, like which direction do we point them in? Because we get a lot of questions from different departments, so it depends on whether or not their field is up to date with correct documentation to help inform them. But overall, we always recommend attending our workshops or using our previous workshops online. And usually they come in with very specific questions and wanting specific data sets. So I would say we always want to make sure that they know that their data set can certainly be accessed. Because a lot of times they'll find online web maps with wonderful, wonderful data, but the data can't actually be downloaded or used. For recommendations for librarians who would like to self-learn GIS, I would be happy to point you in the right direction. There's lots of great tutorials online, and I can drop some in the chat since I know I'm running out of time a little bit.
Thank you, Erin. If you want to respond to more questions in the chat, feel free, because that was really, really interesting. Thank you so much. But we can go ahead and move on to our next presentation, which is visualizing together data visualizations as an entry point for data engagement. So take it away, Halie. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that.
Halie. Okay. Can I get a thumbs up that my slides are showing? Okay, good. Okay, so hi, my name is Halie Kerns. I'm here today to talk about work that I did at Binghamton University, using data visualization as an entry point for data engagement. I actually am in a new position now, but I'm still really excited about the work that I did there, and I'm hoping to bring some of it to my new position too. So happy to be here today. So a little introduction. So I did this within my role as a digital scholarship librarian for data science and STEM at Binghamton. So that role is very public facing. It's really about building community on campus to do digital projects and teach skills in class. And Binghamton is in New York State. It's a public research university. Um, and they've had a digital scholarship presence for almost 10 years now. And I was like the third librarian that they hired for that team, with the goal of more data science and data heavy work versus the focus on digital humanities that they'd had. And I'll also note they just opened a new digital scholarship center this year in January. And that included a data studio that I helped to plan and implement. So the investment is definitely there with it. And a lot of our public facing work, whether it be workshops and events, one-on-ones, in-class instruction, there's a lot of interest. But I wanted to talk about this group DataViz that I was part of leading just because it was one of our most popular initiatives. So I think the reason for that is out of lots of different approaches to data science and working with data visualization tends to be really accessible to people. And it's a way to kind of bring them in and have them understand what possibilities are out there and the potential for their own work or their own instruction. So I have 3 pictures here from 3 different events that we did. And I can talk more about that. But before, again, why I think this is a great entry point. One, visualization invites participation and it makes sometimes concepts that are pretty dense less intimidating. It connects people across fields. We found this a lot, on the campus, like certain areas are very siloed, but when you bring people together who are all doing this one thing, albeit very differently, it's able to spark connections and kind of create opportunities for collaboration. And then this also leads to being able to express research concepts past academic circles and kind of engage with the community and kind of share what you're doing on a level that is outside of maybe the normal group of people that can be the only ones who understand. So, and it really, we found, got people excited with concepts that they were unfamiliar with before coming to the events. So when I say data viz, I'm talking about, that was the name of the group. And this group was founded as part of data science TAE that we have on campus, which is like a formal group that gives seed grants and has a big budget for events around all things data science. So this was an offshoot of that. And it had some champions early on that were really helpful to kind of build that community. And they had some early events. And then the pandemic hit, a lot of those champions left the campus and the group kind of paused for several years. And it was like only remained administratively by a member of student affairs, Kirsten Rowe, who was eventually my co-leader in all of this until I started in 2023. And so when I was brought on in 2023, my role again was to kind of bring more data work into the library and the campus and connect people using that as kind of a locus. So as part of that, one of my goals was to revitalize this group by positioning the libraries, specifically my department, digital scholarship, as a leader in it. And so I did that with Kirsten. who again, she was a staff member in student affairs. So she worked with data analysis, data visualization, but she was in a very different role than me. And that was really helpful in kind of making this a well-rounded venture. And working with many different groups across campus and getting them involved. So I offered my like collaborative spirit and time to make this work. And in addition, the library also sponsored the events with some food. And then once we opened our center, also gave the space. So time, money, and space were the big contributions. So the goal of this group was to build community around data viz. It was never to like have the best data visualization in the world or to just like be the best. It was about like coming as you are and sharing what you've been working on, getting feedback for it, meeting other people doing similar things. So that started as like a small, we called it show and tell, with just like small presentations. And slowly over the 2 years, it grew into like a big showcase, and also a poster session, with helped us get students involved too, especially undergrads. And part of the community building was we cross promoted the events with other groups. So my department and all the events we were doing otherwise, we always promoted it. The TAE that we had started from, and then different groups, different schools and programs on campus. And then a really big boon was making the event that we did part of Research Week, which is our week-long end of the year kind of showcase of research across campus. And that put us like on the map and the general calendar for that as well. As part of the community building, we didn't just look in the university, we also looked outside. We had started going to a local high school data science class, and helping them with their projects. And so we kind of flipped that and started inviting them to the events. And they came as attended. They came and attended, and then eventually started presenting their own posters from the work they've done in their classes. And we found that was a really good way to kind of connect them to like the potentials and possibilities, and also have the campus kind of meet with people who are budding data scientists, and kind of talking to them and giving them feedback. But generally, our biggest goal was to offer people like a low stakes environment to show their work and get people excited about their work. And so we were really successful with this through the events that we had. And another kind of way that we got people excited, we got people involved, and we got people showing up to the events was a liaison model that we implemented as part of the group. So Kirsten and I led the group, and we did most of the planning, and the administrative things, but we had various faculty and staff from schools and departments across campus represent data science within their realm. So they would meet with us about twice a year, once a semester. We'd let them know kind of what we were planning. They would give us feedback. We'd communicate over email. And then they were responsible for kind of sharing our call for submissions for the events, for promoting the events, for recommending their students or their peers to submit for the events as well. And we found this to be quite successful. We had people from across campus really involved, and it wasn't a huge lift too. So it wasn't like, oh, I can't do that because it's too much work. We kept it pretty small, but they were pretty dedicated. And we found this was really nice to get different departments involved, not just the same people that we always worked with. So overall, this group Data Viz and the events we had was a really good entry point to get people in the room. I did a lot of different events and work with people across campus as part of this position, but this by and far was the most popular in terms of like the number of people that came and how engaged people were with it. So definitely use this to promote other work we were doing, connected it to like workshops I had or available consultations. We cross collaborated during things like Love Data Week. So we'd have this event couched with other events going on with similar themes. And people, it definitely brought people into my department themselves. Itself, like letting them know that we could consult, that we could come into their class and teach these tools, that there was opportunities to learn more of these skills as audience members that they were seeing and engaging with, and then cross collaborating on their own projects after meeting people as part of the events. And then even on a personal level, this helped me and my department network build across the campus and meet people, again, who weren't necessarily coming to our workshops because they already had the expertise, but were excited about collaborating things. So this led to publications. This led to me being like asked to be on grants and things like that, having to do with data visualization and community engagement because they knew that we had the experience. And then one other thing that I'll say is it also led to a collaboration with our data management kind of services and repository in our library. We have the orb is the repository for the library. And so we posted all of the presentations and posters that we had from the last 2 sessions, which solidified it as a group, but also made some of this work more available to people who are curious. And I'll leave that in there. You're welcome to click it. But in conclusion, I just wanted to end with some numbers of like the successes of this. So basically we started in fall 2023 and every single semester we doubled basically the participants involved, which was just really exciting and really great. There was a ton of downloads. This number was from last month when I pulled this, of just people engaging with the work that was posted on the repository, and just that we had all campus groups participating in this, both presenting and just attending, undergrad, graduate, staff, faculty, and then the community with the data science class. Yeah, so this was really great work and I really enjoyed it. And I think it's a really great way for people to understand how they can use data in more creative ways, and that it's not maybe as scary as they think it is. All right, thank you so much. I'm happy to answer any questions. Okay, I'm looking at the chat right now. How did the data science TA start or get funded? This was a larger project on campus about 10 years ago. I think the idea was these were kind of groups on campus that didn't have like schools or departments, and were across different departments. And so they wanted these people to talk to each other, but it was a little less than like, let's build a whole school for it. So that came from the provost, and has just continued because of the success. So data science is one of them, sustainability. There's, I think, 5 of them. So if you Google them, they'll come up. I can't list them all off the top of my head. Were you getting much attendance at the show and tell? How was the reception to it? Yeah, so those numbers at the end, it started small, but it really grew, especially when we couched it in the research week, because people were going to events across campus and ours was just another event.
Thank you.
We always had food to bring people in. And it was funny because it started with there being a lot of leftovers. So the last one, there was like no food at all in 10 minutes.
Nice.
And oh, the metadata meet cute. I was very proud of that title. It was metadata meet cute, your data's favorite data or something like that. That was a panel we did with people who work with metadata. So we had the person who runs our repository, a metadata librarian, and then a researcher on campus who does a lot of work with metadata for data. And basically they just talked about their experience with that. That was a really great event. I think that's all the questions in the chat. If there's anything else.
What sort of people went to that? Sorry, that event.
The metadata event or the data viz events?
Both.
Okay, so the data viz events, like we said, we had the liaisons, so we had like really strong showings from like very specific departments on campus. Like we had like a computer science systems liaison, so that brought in people. We have a really strong relationship with our digital and data studies, and they were some of the people that presented. So it was I would say we had a lot of faculty involvement in the beginning, and that kind of stayed steady, but we definitely got more and more students as the semesters went. For the metadata meet cute, that was a lot of undergraduate students and a couple graduate students for the most part.
Haley, I see one more question in the chat.
Oh, sorry.
And we probably have enough time for that one.
Were there any specific data viz programs used or promoted during the event? So as part of the like submission process, we had them submit the tools that they used, and then we asked them whether they did a poster or like a lightning talk to mention what they used tool wise or analysis wise. So that was definitely a part, since as the digital scholarship librarian, like I supported a lot of those tools. And then if people were interested, I could kind of help them learn, or we had workshops tailored to that. But we didn't require a lot. So we had a range of everything from like GIS, network analysis, text analysis. It was really like there were no limits to what people could talk about. And we did get a really wide range. We had like a math one where I can't even describe it. I'm sorry, I'm not a mathematician, but they were like working with liquids to figure out weights of things. It was very complicated. So there was a lot of different approaches. The only requirement is they had to either be using data visualization or have data visualization in the like presentation.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Haley. That was awesome presentation. I'm a big fan of data visualizations. But next up for our final short talk of this session is live data collection and visualization as student engagement and data literacy tool. So Ashley and Ozlem, take it away.
Okay, thank you. It is so exciting to hear about everyone else's really cool data visualization projects. So I first want to introduce myself. My name is Ashley Rockwell, and I am the Georgia State University's Data Literacy and Learning Specialist. I kind of want to start with that because my title is kind of why we created this outreach event and what we'll be discussing today. So my position focuses on building data literacy among our undergraduates specifically. So I do other typical RDS work, but a big portion of my position was created specifically to bring in more undergraduates. And so I'm also here with my colleague Ozlem, who is inspired me to submit this presentation. We've been doing this for a few years, and I've shared it with folks on the International Love Data Week committee. So I know some folks have kind of started adopting it there, but I didn't realize that it was something that people would be interested in until Ozlem pointed this out to me. And so I'm happy to have her with me today. The presentation is going to be primarily me, but there'll be a point where Ozlem comes in to talk about ways that she's kind of expanded what we are doing, and then also bring in her perspective of what it looks like from someone who hasn't been just in it the whole time. So first, as I mentioned, I kind of mentioned Love Data Week before. So trying to reach undergraduates can be difficult. Oftentimes we're working with graduate students and faculty because they are already in need of some type of data support. And so one of the easiest ways to outreach is, through tabling. And so we first started when I found out about International Love Data Week, sponsored by ICPSR. I was like, oh, this will be a great excuse to table with some themed idea. And so we started having tabling, and we were able to use our Love Data Week decorations and our polls to bring people in and be like, hey, we're celebrating Love Data Week, because usually people will be like, what is this? Um, and we're, also promoting our library resources, uh, data related resources to help you build your own data skills. And so it was a good way to like initially start a conversation. And at first, we weren't doing these live data visualizations or collections. We started adding them and realizing that students would see them from far away and come over and be like, what is this? Or unfortunately, sometimes just shout out their answer as they were walking past if they were running late to class. But it became like another tool to kind of get students to come to the table for us. Because I don't know if anyone else has this tabled, it can be difficult to bring in the students. And so we use this as like our bring in. So, you can offer free things. We'd offer free stickers. We also didn't, when I first started, there was no funding for any activities in my original position. And so we only had whatever we had in the supply closet. And so part of this kind of came out of finding a bunch of unused and unneeded sticker dots that we used to use in the library to put on book spines, and it kind of turning into something more. So we use this time to promote our resources, such as our tutorials and workshops, our badges, micro-credentials, and then other resources that we have to help students build their data skills. So Love Data Week became so successful that we're like, how do we do this in the fall? And that's where we came up with Scary Data Week. And I want to shout out to the folks at American University who spoke yesterday. And I was so excited to see that they've adopted Scary Data Week as well. And this is just basically equivalent to Love Data Week, but this time we could take on the idea of that data shouldn't be scary, since lots of folks think of a data as scary, and so we could emphasize our fun data pools and bring in more students. The success of Love Data Week and Scary Data Week became became known for actually getting students to come to our tables. And so different departments within the library started reaching out and asking me to build some type of data viz or data collection tool for whatever tabling event they were doing. And that's how I ended up getting on the library sustainability committee, and then us doing Earth Week and doing some live data collections for that. And we were able to use that to promote both our data resources and then our sustainability related resources in the library. Later, Ozlem is going to talk about how we were also able to partner with our AI working group and how we were able to use our live data viz in relation to that. And so we've also been at things like the new grad student orientation fair or student involvement. So bringing our live data collection and viz to different places besides just our library. And that's important because our library, although we are lucky that in the sense that we're at a downtown campus where the library is the hub for students, the student center doesn't have as much space for students, and so we get more traffic than the student center. I just want to mention that we know that this has been successful outside of just the library when we're at other events within the university. So I want to go into kind of like how we started with our charts and some example charts to give you ideas of what you could potentially do. So like I mentioned, we first started out, the inspiration was we found a bunch of unused sticker dots and we didn't have very much funding or materials. And so our first charts are not necessarily good. And as someone, as a data person, not the best data visualizations. And so we started doing these scale questions. The first one is we were trying to show the difference between how often students were thinking about their data being used, and then how compared to how often or to how important data privacy was to them. We realize that the fun ones, if we can have those on our, whiteboards or easels, that's what brings the students in, and then we can get them into more interesting conversations. But pineapple on pizza, so anything that is gonna cause arguments is a great way to bring students in. This one, I want to point out that this was done in 2022, this artificial intelligence. So I think this might be a different, if we did it again, we might get a different response. So then we stepped up our game because we were able to purchase large graph paper, large sticky note graph paper, and that really helped us make easier charts. We also realized that we didn't necessarily need to use the sticker charts, although that those were students really love it because they can physically become a data point. Their data point is a dot and they're putting it on the chart. We also had some interesting visitors. So this was not one of us in the library. We're not sure who it was because they only communicated to us in hand gestures, but they came and wanted to pose with our clowns are from silly to scary scale. We were able to, we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but we were able to actually use some of our data we collected. This one is about asking students how often they would use our transit cards if they were able to get a free transit card, or how often they would use public transit if they were able to get a free transit card. And so we have been able to kind of use this data that we've collected as opposed to just being for fun, use it to make arguments about potentially making changes in the university. Other types of charts that we've done are just kind of like traditional bar column charts. Our favorite one, which we still have hung up in our office suite because we are fans of Mudang, which was which Mudang are you, and having students fill in, which is why the graph paper was great, having them fill in the charts. We were also kind of able to use our charts as a way to teach students information. And so during Earth Week, we had, would you rather take shorter showers or reduce your AI use? And explain that about 1 minute of shower time is about 10 to 20 AI queries. Students did not, they were like, what does showers have to do with AI use? And so this was kind of both like an educational tool and this at the same time as it was to get students interested and build a data viz. We also, and we're going to talk a little bit more in detail in a bit, but this vampire versus werewolf chart, we did not think that, we thought this would be a pretty like open and or a very clear question. But we were getting feedback from students about, well, what kind of vampire? Is this a Twilight vampire? Is this a True Blood vampire? And then more vampires that I did not know about. And so we can start to get into questions about not good survey questions, or how we think as like researchers, our survey questions are very clear, and then when participants actually look at them, they are not sure how to answer. Besides our paper surveys, we also are doing marble polls, and these were done with marbles and glass jars that we got from the dollar store, and then had different categories. Usually Love Data Week falls after the Super Bowl, so we tend to have something Super Bowl related. Our students consistently choose the halftime performers over any of the teams, and also especially the refs. And it's a fun way to kind of build a bar chart, and you're literally getting to be a data point with the marbles. We also do, besides, we've only have 4 glass jars, so sometimes we'll do binary marble polls, so we can do more than one poll. These are some examples of some of our polls that we've done in the past. We also realized that if we do just a binary poll, then we can see the results quicker, because more people are just choosing, between 1 or 2 categories. What is your vibe during your fall or brat summer? This is where like our student assistance and feedback from students is very helpful, because we do not know what is cool, unfortunately, and they help us make those kind of decisions. We also started doing a 2-step marble poll. So this, you can think of like if you were to do a survey and you wanted to look at multiple variables and see how somebody who answered this question, how they answered the following question. And so we switched to using scrap paper balls, scrap paper that was blue, scrap paper that was white. And so we'd ask a question, they'd choose the paper ball color based on their response to that question, and then they answer the next question. This was actually inspired by a local community event where they asked us to use different colored ping pong balls. We did not have different colored ping pong balls on hand, but we did have a bunch of scrap paper, and we realized that this actually, we might like this better than marbles, because like I said before, you can see quicker because the paper is bigger. We can see quicker how the jars fill up. And then we can see differences based on the different categories. So what we've learned a lot. So like one of the key things, data literacy takeaways that we realize we have an opportunity to do by using these data visualizations, is to discuss bad survey questions. So either issues of like non-exhaustive options. We did one of our most popular surveys was about whether or not the bills should be split on a date. We left this up overnight and got a lot of, if you see there's written notes, a lot of qualitative feedback. People were very passionate. We also realized that this was not a good question, because students had follow-up questions like, well, who asked the person out first? And then what is the gender of the person I'm going out on a date with? Who makes the most money? And so it gets into, we can have this discussion about how difficult it is to write a good survey question, having non-exhaustive options, or even our leading questions. And so leading questions is a big thing that we like to point out. So for example, we asked if Atlanta should ban single-use plastic shopping bags, and added like other major cities. And as you can see, we had no one chose disagree, or our tags of like dating apps, all are being terrible. That ended up being our most selected category. It also allows us to teach how to read a chart, especially with scatter plots. So we have to, show students how to read the chart, where to put their dot. So this has been a great way for us to get students to look at the axes, also look at the key or legend, especially for using different colored dots to represent different categories. And then just that opportunity for students to get to become data themselves, like be some physical data point. And so the benefits of doing this live data collection, beyond just this data literacy, like getting to teach these brief data literacy lessons, is that it does encourage student engagement. it is fun and memorable. We have students coming back. If when we do week-long events, they'll come back every day, or they'll see, if I see students and they recognize me, they'll always be like, oh, you're that love data person, or you're that scary data week lady. And so they remember the event from doing the polls, or they'll tell us when they come, they're like, oh, this is my favorite part of the year. Um, but it also allows us to actually get feedback from students. Besides just the conversations we're having when we're talking to students, we're actually collecting data. Even if some of our methoding and sampling we can question, we are getting data about our students. And so that's what I'm going to let Ozlem talk about.
Um, I also want to a little bit talk about the university side of the story because we really care about our students to learn more about data and visualization. But there's also benefits to us doing this sort of work. So I also see data literacy as a campus-wide initiative. We mostly do these like tables in our Atlanta campus, which is the biggest campus, but we also, depending on the year, depending on our like time that we have or like the collaboration, we also expand this to other campuses that we have. One thing that we did last year was on artificial intelligence because I was part of the AI working group, and we were trying to assess overall, how students are seeing AI, what kind of needs that they have over AI. Like, do they want more AI related source resources, or do they need new tools? Maybe they need workshops or seminars, or they want to learn more about, ethical aspects of it. So one thing that we did was basically we had these like live, polls, like so that we can collect data about it. And we did this again in different, campuses. And we didn't stick to a one style. Like in Atlanta campus, we had this bar chart where we also had an option for students to like write their responses, and also attaching a QR code because some of these students were really passionate about AI. So they wanted to provide more feedback using a survey. And also we did the same thing in the perimeter campus, but in a different fashion. So when we are developing a new policy, or if you're, in a midst of like some new initiative, this sort of like data literacy can be really useful tool to get an instant feedback and an authentic one as well. I'm not sure about the representativeness of this because most of the people who answer these questions are the ones that really have an idea on this topic. And it also helps us to foster transparency across campuses. So we really take this as an opportunity to inform the university leadership as well. Given that I have 1 minute, I'm going to stop here and give floor to Ashley because Ashley is going to show you some really cool stuff about how you can implement this in your own place.
Yes, thank you. So first, I think the hardest thing for us is to come up with the polls. And so I wanted to give some advice on first determining the goal of your poll. So if you wanted to use it to teach a certain data literacy concept, so then make sure you're incorporating something that you want to teach. So for example, leading questions, having using a leading question within your poll, and then point that out to students after they've voted. Or if you're just wanting to use it to attract students, use something that is interesting to them. This is where asking student assistants to either evaluate them or give you brainstorming ideas is helpful. And then, or if you're wanting to use it to gather useful data, that would definitely shape the type of questions you're using. Also, we found that themes have been really helpful for us to shape focus. So Earth Week, focusing on sustainability related questions, or Love Data Week, we do like more love dating themes, or Scary Data Week. We try to do more themes related to that. But having different polls for each day has been helpful for us because we're in a high trafficked area. But in on our perimeter campuses, they can put up a poll for the whole week and still be able to get results. I know some people are talking about supplies, so I want to make sure I get to that. Most of our supplies are office supplies, and so we were able to once we ran out of like the things that we leftovers we found in the closet, we were able to order poster paper with the large sticky note paper and then markers or more sticker dots. The marble pulls we got from the dollar store, and they're just clear vases. So I think it was $4 for the jars, and we probably bought 3 things of marbles. But again, like we said, you can just use scrap paper or bottle caps or any other thing to fill it up. And I wanted to shout out to the paper no pencil competition because that was also one of the things that inspired us, was having this idea of creating data visualizations without using computers, like some analog way to create data visualizations. If you want to do your own marble polls, we have templates and examples of those polls. So some of them are ones that we've already done that you can edit and print out. We have a PowerPoint version that you can look at. I know we are running out of time. I just want to say in the future, we want to be able to incorporate more qualitative data as well. Really excited about, at one point, this is where it will cost money to buy Legos, but I've been on the lookout for cheap ones at estate sales. But I think a Lego scatter plot would be great and very fun. But then also converting our data into data dashboards and comparing with other schools so we can kind of see change over time and doing more of a formal evaluation of our effectiveness. And then also we want to do either a poll, like a survey, or a Dropbox for students to submit questions they want us to ask, because that can be one of the harder things for us to come up with. Thank you so much for your time. Wanted to end with Mudang, make a data less scary with Mudang. Yeah, so if you have any questions, let us know. We can continue to answer them in the chat or here. I know we're out of time.
Thank you for that. Yeah, we have a break after all these wonderful short talks until 11:15, where we're going to reconvene for our poster sessions. So if anyone does have questions, feel free to chit chat. But it is officially a quick break, so everyone can get their water, go to the bathroom, and we'll see you back at 11:15 Eastern.
Thank you. I'll stay on a bit so I can look at the questions, if there are any questions in the chat. I think Ozlem has answered most of the questions, and it's great to see so many people were into the into the vampires as well, and the duck horse. Thank you.